What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to this episode of Home Built Workshop. Today we have a Q&A episode. We're going to talk about preparing your vehicle for winter driving. Stay tuned because the snow is coming. Well, since we've already gotten snow here and I have gone through this checklist myself, I've also been asked, hey, what can I do to make sure that I'm ready for winter? So I thought I would put this video together to share with you guys some of the things that I personally do to make sure my vehicles are ready for winter driving. Of course, if you live in an area of the world where you don't get snow, well, you don't really need this video. But for those of you that have to deal with this snow, like myself, I have never lived somewhere where I don't get snow in the wintertime, so this is just a common thing. Every single year I do these things to make sure our vehicles are ready to go. So let's jump right in. I have prepared a list of 5 things that you can do to prepare yourself and your vehicle for winter driving. Number 1 on the list is your battery. You need to make sure your battery is up to the challenge of starting your vehicle in cold weather. The cooler temperatures require more from your battery than the warmer temperatures do, so your battery has to be up to par to make sure that it's going to start in the cold. The colder the temperatures get, the stronger that battery needs to be. It's fairly easy for you to do a visual inspection on your battery. You can look at the terminals, check for things like corrosion, make sure the connections are tight, make sure that nothing looks melted, burned, or out of order. But to really check the battery, you need to be able to connect it to a battery tester. Now you can buy these testers yourself, but most of the time I've found that if you just take it to an auto parts store, they can test it for you, or possibly if you have a local mechanic that could hook it up at the shop and do the same thing, that'll give you a pretty good idea of the condition of your battery. Of course, if it tests weak, you want to replace it. When I do have to replace a battery, I try to buy the biggest one that I can get that will still fit my vehicle. And by biggest, I don't necessarily mean size, but I'm looking at the cold cranking amps. This is how much power the battery has in the cold. I want the highest number of cranking amps that I can possibly find in a battery. Sometimes this means spending a little bit more money to get a little bit more powerful battery, but for myself, I always feel better having the biggest battery that I can get. The reason that I put the battery as number 1 on my list is because, well, if you can't get your vehicle started, none of the rest of the things on this list really even apply. Or even worse, if you get stranded somewhere and your vehicle battery dies, that could really be a disaster if you're not prepared with the rest of the things on this list. Number 2, check your tires. So now you've got a good battery, you've got your vehicle started, but if your tires are bald, it doesn't matter, you're not gonna go. You're just gonna be spinning, you're gonna slide out, you're gonna get stuck in a ditch. You will have issues if your tires are bald. There are several tire tread gauges that you can buy at the auto parts store. They're really inexpensive, but something that most of us have, a simple quarter. From the edge of the quarter to the top of Washington's head is about 4/32 of an inch. When you place the quarter into the tread should come up past the top of his head, and that's a good indication that you have enough tread on your tires. If you find that your tread depth is 4/32 or under, you really should consider getting some new tires. Now, I'm not going to recommend one kind of tire over another. That's not what this video is about. You need to make that decision and decide whether some all-season tires or some dedicated snow tires or what exactly will work for you. I have used snow tires myself. I've used studded snow tires, but most of the time, our vehicles just have regular all-season tires on there and we do just fine. Although, studded snow tires are pretty amazing if you live in a very snowy area. Once you've determined that your tire tread is good, you want to check your tire pressures as well. Now, a lot of the tires will have the recommended pressures right on the sidewalls, but a lot of the newer vehicles these days have the tire pressure monitoring systems. So if you inflate your tires to what the tire says, but that pressure is different than what the vehicle recommends, you could have tire pressure sensor lights going off. It's best to check the plate inside your driver's door and inflate your tires to the recommended pressure on that sticker. Now, a lot of the times these are very similar pressures, but I do recommend checking what your vehicle says and inflating it to that pressure. So now you've got your vehicle started and your tires are good. You are ready to hit the road, but if you can't see, that's another problem. Number 3 on our list is visibility. First, make sure you have a good ice scraper and snow brush handy and accessible. A lot of times in the non-snowy months, these things get thrown under the seat, in the glove box, or possibly even removed from the vehicle. Make sure you have that handy and you know where it is. You don't want to need your ice scraper and have to spend the next 10 minutes digging through your vehicle to find it. Now, I keep a small ice scraper like this right in the pocket in my driver's door. It also fits nicely in the glove box during the summer. I don't take it out of my vehicle because I don't want it to get lost. I'll just tuck it away. When it comes time for winter weather, I have this right in the door. I can reach it. I don't have to look around for it. I also keep a larger one that also has a snow brush on it. It's really handy for cleaning the roof and the hood and that sorts of things off. You want to make sure you can clean your vehicle off as best you can before you hit the road. Otherwise, all that blowing snow could distract another driver. I've even had some fly off of other vehicles and land on my windshield, which is really kind of nerve-wracking when you're already dealing with slippery conditions. A couple other things you want to check to make sure you have good visibility. Make sure that your wiper blades work good. If they're streaking, torn, worn out, go ahead and replace those. Unfortunately, wiper blades seem to be getting really expensive, but don't risk it if they're streaking, worn, torn, not working well. Just replace them. Also, make sure you top off your windshield washer fluid reservoir with a good windshield washer fluid that is rated for cold weather. You don't want that to freeze, and please do not just dump water in there. You can get away with it in the summertime, but in the wintertime, you really do need a washer fluid that's rated for cold weather. And that brings us to number 4, and that is your antifreeze. I would begin this by just visually checking the antifreeze level. You'll have to look and see where the fill line is for your particular reservoir. Just gonna look. Looks like we're good. If it's low and you need to add some, make sure you're using the correct one. A lot of cars these days require a specific antifreeze. Now, this was something that I recently had experience with. I put an incorrect kind of antifreeze in one of our vehicles. That was a headache for me. Don't do it. Make sure you know what goes in your vehicle before adding some. Once you have your level topped off, I like to test the temperature rating of the antifreeze that's in my vehicle. I use a simple tester just like this. It has a little bulb. You can squeeze a little bit up in here, and this needle will tell you the temperature range that your vehicle is protected to. You want to make sure that the temperature rating on here definitely goes below the temperature that you expect to get in your area. I like to go a fair amount below that. Now, I've seen temperatures here in excess of 20 below zero, so when I'm testing my antifreeze, I like to make sure that I'm at least 30 or more. Really, I like to just max mine out if I can. As long as you're protected for more than what you believe your area will get, you should be fine. These little things are inexpensive and they work really good. You have to get the whole thing full of antifreeze and then see where your pointer. For mine, looks like I'm protected to 45 below zero. So just as a side note, you may be wondering what could happen if my radiator is not protected at a cold enough temperature. Well, I can tell you, unfortunately, from experience, your radiator will freeze. Possibly your engine block can freeze. If that happens, there's all kinds of things that could go wrong. It could pop your freeze plugs out. Your radiator could split. You will have some sort of bad day. Ask me how I know. I did have a radiator freeze once upon a time. This was many years ago. I didn't have enough antifreeze in there. In fact, I might have even only had water just because I didn't pay attention to it. My radiator froze solid. I started the vehicle up in the morning and took off to heading to work. Once everything came up to temperature, the antifreeze couldn't flow. It was really bad. It split the sides of my radiator out. Trust me, you don't want to be there. Make sure your antifreeze is good. And number 5. Do a general check of all other systems on your vehicle. This is where you're going to check your things like your heater, your defroster, your rear defogger, your four-wheel drive system, your transmission, everything. Make sure if you can switch your vehicle to four-wheel drive that it does go into four-wheel drive. You don't want to get stuck somewhere and not have your four-wheel drive work or your heater work or something like that. Make sure all of your bulbs are working, all of your lights. Make sure your headlights, fog lights, any sort of thing is up to par, because you don't want to get in the middle of some dangerous driving conditions and find out something important is not working. Now, depending on any issues you may find, you may need to schedule an appointment with a repair shop to get certain things fixed, but you want to make sure that you're in working order before you get into bad driving conditions. And just for fun, I have put together a bonus tip, something that I highly, highly, highly recommend. Even if you do everything else on this list, something can still happen, and that's where the bonus tip comes in. Have an emergency kit prepared and in your vehicle at all times. You could have the best tires on your vehicle, be the safest driver, but somehow you could still possibly get stuck in some snow. Maybe you slide off the road and you have to spend the night there in your vehicle, or, as I've been, stuck on a road that was shut down due to whiteout conditions. I had to spend an entire day stuck on a highway one time. It was not fun. Now, I was not prepared for that. I did not have an emergency kit. I just had a few bare essentials, and that is why I'm adding this to the list. I like to use a backpack for mine, just an inexpensive one. You don't have to go overboard. This is something that you can leave in your vehicle 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the time, every day of the year. I include things like a first aid kit, a few snacks, some water, some hand warmers, there's a blanket, a few basic tools, just some different things that can keep you alive in the event that you need to spend a night in your vehicle. And that's really what this is for. This is not a bag that you're gonna take camping. This is not a bag that you're gonna take out and keep in your house. This is only an emergency kit that is really just meant to get you through in case you have to spend a night in your vehicle. And I can't stress enough how much I recommend having a few basic things there. I don't want you guys to turn into a frozen popsicle if you do happen to get stuck in the snow. That'd be bad. So there you have it, guys. 5 things to consider when preparing yourself and your vehicle for winter driving. I hope you guys found this helpful. Please take these things to heart because it can make a difference of you getting through a winter season successfully or having some issues. And I want you guys all to be safe and sound throughout the winter. There is no reason to be afraid of winter driving, especially if you're prepared for it. Just take your time, drive safe, guys, have an awesome winter time. Let me know down below in the comments if there's something that you feel I should have included in this video, or maybe there's something else that you personally do to prepare your vehicle for winter driving. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.